The Cuphead Show has recently released its third and what seems like for now its final season. After 36 episodes in the space of only 10 months, as viewers we were treated to a world that was yet to grace the screen in the form of a television show, and little did we know as we were watching it, we were witnessing the world long before the narrative of when the game began. The show was and is something extremely unique, and with the way that Season 3 of the show ended, I thought I'd break down and explain why I think the Cuphead Show was so good at what it did. So let's get into it. Here is why the Cuphead Show was the perfect prequel. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Cuphead Show is truly one of a kind on the platform. Embodying the old school style of animation, there's a sense of comfort and nostalgia when watching. It stayed true to the tone of the game despite the fact that the show was going to universal audiences. Over the course of 3 seasons, we got to spend time with Cuphead, Mugman, Elder Kettle, Miss Chalice, King Dice, and the Devil, the main characters that are extremely important to the Cuphead game, and are pivotal to the narrative of going through Inkwell Isle. The show didn't reveal to us that it was a prequel to the much-loved game until one of the final shots in the 3rd season, and it was the perfect way to round off the show and provide a natural transition into the game, if you were to play it for the first time. We weren't told when the show was set, it was just left up to interpretation, but the finale of Season 3 confirmed it. I'm going to break this video down by the main reasons as to why I think it made the show the perfect prequel. The ending of Season 3. As we saw, in the closing moments of the final episode, we saw that Cuphead, Mugman, and Miss Chalice hadn't seen the Devil for at least a month, since they'd previously won the right to keep hold of their souls following on from the dance-off and the rock-paper-scissors duel. Like in the game, throughout the entirety of the show, we saw that the Devil had been on the hunt to capture and claim Cuphead's soul, but right at the end we saw that Cuphead managed to evade it, by doing what he did best, and that was by creating a deal with the Devil. We saw a countless number of deals getting made over the course of the show, and what's great about that is the fact that the whole premise of the game that the show led directly into, by introducing us to the Devil's Casino, the setting in which the story of the game kicks off, Cuphead does eventually go on to make a deal with him, continuing the traits and personality of the character that we'd seen for 36 episodes. We saw that Cuphead liked to risk everything that he had, because a lot of the time he was good when it came to winning, like we saw in the show with Soul Ball and also Rock Paper Scissors. This led him to feel confident and feel as though he wanted to keep on going. This exact behaviour is what was exhibited and showcased to us in the opening sequence of the game, where we saw exactly how the brothers ended up looking to claim the souls from the bosses on the game, after making a deal to protect their own. Prior to playing the game, we didn't know the brothers' personalities really. We had to learn along the way, whereas with the 36 episodes of the show prior to launching the game, you're really able to understand the contrast in the brothers. Cuphead's throw caution to the wind and deal with the consequences later attitude, along with Mugman's more level-headed, panicked approach. Cuphead running off to the casino in the last shot is what we eventually go on to see in the opening page of the game, and I think it's perfectly intertwined. The seamless integration of the 2 different mediums is extremely well thought out. We were introduced to many of the main bosses in their true form and also got to understand more about the individual souls we were seeking out for the Devil. Even in episode 8, where we saw the Devil recruit King Dice again to ensure that the opening pages of the game made sense as to why he was there, because they were absent from each other prior to that episode. It was a well thought out ending to the show and I commend it for that. The introduction of the main characters. In the Cuphead game, there are many different bosses that you face in multiple different forms in order to capture their souls. They range in difficulty and each hold different values in the sense of importance. For example, a Goopy Legrand doesn't feel as important as a Hidla Berg or a Baroness Von Bon Bon. At least that's my opinion anyway. What this show did really well was that it only introduced us to a handful of main bosses that we'd eventually come across later on down the line in the game. But for some, such as Baroness Von Bon Bon, where there's an extremely different world, and Ruby and Croaks, where their relationship is key to the character's traits, we got small glimpses of. The rest we either got small nods towards, such as Hidla Berg flying in the sky, and some, well, they were left out completely. At the time, I was disappointed that we didn't get more screen time with more of the bosses, but now I understand why. This is a prequel. They're not going to give everything away in the prequel, because if they did, then what would be the excitement or surprise in playing the game? It's only something now upon viewing the show as a prequel that it makes sense. I would often be frustrated, but now I appreciate and thank the creators for doing that. The differentiation between the game and the show. The game and the show have clear differentiating factors. In the show, Cuphead and Mugman are essentially powerless. They don't have their fingers that fire out, they don't have the ability to fly in the sky, they can't revive each other, nor can they do anything else that we go on to see later on down the line in the game. They're just two brothers that get caught up in the odd bit of chaos and argue with each other from time to time. They're not equipped to deal with the tasks of such scale as what the game is. Hence why we see Elder Kettle give Cuphead the potion in the game, because on their own, they wouldn't be that strong or as good of a match. In the 36 episodes, they did come face to face with some of these bosses, but they're not taking them on directly and trying to take something from them. In the show, we were able to see that they're capable of getting themselves out of difficult situations, and it provided a backdrop and context to their confidence and ability to carry out such a large task as claiming the souls of many main bosses, and how at the end of the game they're competent enough at beating the devil at his own game as they've done it a countless number of times in the show. The main difference in them not having abilities in the show isn't missed, because it's never really needed. We saw how powerful they were in their own right, and that was more than enough. They never needed them to get themselves out of situations, unlike in the game. Overall review. I feel the Cuphead show is very unique in what it's done, in being able to start the show at Season 1 Episode 1 and then go all the way through to Season 3 Episode 11, and then fire up the game and follow on directly on from the show. It's incredibly smart, and a great way of elevating the success of the game and migrating it over to a different medium. I'd love to see more of the Cuphead show, and I hope we do get that. Maybe even a sequel to the game. But in its own right now, it works perfectly in the form of a prequel to the game. It's elaborated on a world that we were familiar with, characters we yearn to know more of, and two protagonists that are just as good in the form of a show as they are in the game, even without their powers. The relationships of the Devil and Henchman, Cuphead and Mugman, Ribby and Croaks, and many of the other characters that featured in the show was joyous to watch, and I feel the show complemented the game and provided the perfect prequel we didn't know we even needed. The world is thriving. Now we just need another medium. Maybe a comic. I'd be down to read that. But for now, back to the game. So, there you have it. Why the Cuphead show was the perfect prequel. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think this show was a good prequel? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.